Hello Chassos, welcome to another video where we are going for our take 2 of win an event with a Ghostkeel in our list. Now, there's a lot that I'm really excited to talk about within this, so let's get straight into the video. Obviously couldn't do any of this without my patrons, my wonderful sponsor. Stick around to the end of the video to hear more about how you can support me. Alright, so we are going to the Dice Arcade RTT, which you'll remember from a little while ago. I went to the Dice Arcade GT, a very well run event. We also did an interview style thing with 40k Academy. If you're interested in seeing the VOD of everything that we were talking about there, because there was some real gems with myself, the rank 2 AdMech player in the world, and the Dark Angels player that was there, Damien Ridgewell, who did incredibly well at Uprising Adelaide, coming second there and going undefeated. He did incredibly well at the Dice Arcade GT, just put up massive results for a bunch of things. So I'll leave a link down in the description for you to be able to go and check that out. But for this video, we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. I will get into the Ghostkeel, but I wanted to, first and foremost, because it's taken me a little while, the patrons got this footage, but I haven't put it out as a public video. At the Dice Arcade GT, there was a really fantastic moment where I got to play against a fan of the channel, which I didn't think really would ever happen. Like, we are a tiny YouTube channel, like tiny drop in the ocean. But I'm standing at the table and we're setting up and everything else, and he leans across and goes, "Hey, by the way, I know who you are, fan of the channel, your videos really helped me. I actually reached out and, you know, said hello and everything else." And I was kind of taken aback and blown away, because you don't expect that. Like, I'm not doing this because I'm all about the fame, but it turned out to be one of the most enjoyable games I have had in a long time. It was a town mirror, and it turned out he was another military boy as well, so we had a ton in common. And just, I don't think I've spent so much of a game just literally physically jumping up and down with laughter when he'd roll like ones on his hammerhead rolls, and then I would snuff my hammerhead rolls, and then he would do the same again, and it just the game was wonderful. I got a post-match interview with him, so I'll run that now, because he was running Sasaya Sept, which actually hurt me more than I thought it would. I was still going to win the game because I was running a Fisher Fury, take the board sort of list. I got first roll, and so, you know, first turn I jumped out to like a 20-point lead. And because he was running, you know, Crisis and all that sort of stuff, he had to be a little bit more conservative, and just with how aggressively I scored, it didn't allow him really to get the game back, especially when some of his platforms just failed him in terms of damage. But it was an incredibly enjoyable game, and I'll run the interview now, because Elliot, absolutely amazing dude. Like, really enjoyed playing against him, and the reason I bring it up is he's going to be at the Dice Arcade RTT that I'm going to, so very excited to see him again. Have a look. Here at the end of the day 1 of Dice Arcade GT, I am here with my round 2 opponent, who was another Tau player, and turned out when we started the game is a dude who's been watching my videos and actually reached out. So introduce yourself, man.
Hey guys, I'm Elliot. I've been watching Jay for the last little while. Found him very helpful. Not helpful enough, unfortunately.
So I think you're getting the like what happened in our game. So we went in, and knowing it was the Tower Mirror, we kind of knew how the game was going to go depending on the go first roll. The Dice Arcade GT, it does have probably less terrain than I think would be good for like a non-shooting army dominant meta. What did you think about that, man? What do you think about the terrain?
I think it definitely helps to go turn 1. You know, I was really fortunate I took Kayun, or like Exemplar of the Kayun, and so I could still pull 3 things off the board, and I still found even that wasn't like enough to hide everything.
Yeah, and if you didn't, I had more to kill. Like that was 100% to play. Yeah.
But you know, everyone's on the same field, I guess.
Yeah. It's I'd probably, if I could, I would add in probably another ruin to each side of the board, just to give some extra places for you to hide some things. And but you did well castling Crisis and everything, because turn 1 I had to be a bit more conservative than I thought I would. I did a lot of staging, getting ready for my next turn, because we were on diagonal deployments, and it meant that because there was a blacked out 3-story building at the back, I couldn't just touch the wall and shoot you through it. I had to be on the other side.
But the best part of our game, honestly, was the sheer number of explodes that happened. We had your Riptide went off in your home castle, and to what was it, like 5 units?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, it was definitely within range of about 5 of mine and maybe 1 of yours.
Yeah.
I think it did more mortal wounds to me than it did damage output to your units.
It did like a total of 12 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
I think it was about that much.
Yeah,
definitely. And then we had a Devilfish go off. We had a Hammerhead go off.
Yep.
And
one of your Hammerheads, I think?
One of my Hammerheads, one of your Hammerheads. And just we spent the whole game just literally rolling mortal wounds. And then, just the little things of we're rolling for the Hammerhead shots. And you and I had 1 Hammerhead shot go through each.
Yeah.
4 Hammerheads on the field between the 2 each that we had. And every time you rolled to wound, you made the joke that you were going to roll a 1. And then, by God, you did it.
I did. Yep. I think each of us only landed 1 Hammerhead shot.
Yes. Yeah. Which honestly made the game kind of fun that we kind of knew how the game was going just from the go first roll. And there were a lot of people looking at us a lot of the time because I was laughing my ass off every time we rolled dice.
Yeah.
And what do you do? What do you do except laugh at the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think in context it was probably, 80-something to 40 and 30 something?
Yeah. So that, and I think it was just me dominating the primary.
Certainly. But even that, we were still just having an absolute laugh the entire time, which was just hilarious. Yeah,
which, you did have a very, very great attitude. There's a lot of people when they're on the receiving end of a bad loss that they just mentally check out. The Astra Militarum player that I just beat, he kind of did the same thing. He apologized at the end of the game. He's like, sorry that I was a bit salty there. In his defense, I did kill most of his infantry turn 1, so I would be a little bit kind of, okay, cool, this game's over as well. But, it was a really, really enjoyable game. You're running a Sasaya list. Is there anything you would do differently? Are you happy with how it's performing? What do you think about the sub-faction that you've chosen?
I think it's a bit swingy. It did actually come into play really quite well with you.
I actually felt it, yeah.
Yeah, the -1 to hit or the dense cover does actually help, I think, a little bit.
Yes.
What I find not helpful, though, is the lack of wound re-roll rolls.
Yes.
And then when you pair Hammerheads into that as well, that makes it really hard. So I'm really loving Hammerheads in Tau Sept and Farsight. That's great.
Yeah.
Hammerheads elsewhere, not so much.
Yep.
Riptides as well, also not being able to re-roll.
Oh, mate, my Riptides did next. Yes, at the end of the game, my Riptide popped your Riptide with some very bad save rolls on your behalf.
Yeah.
But most of the game, and I had it in the first game, I was rolling 1s and 2s left, right, and center. I could not get them to connect. And I don't think there's many people that have spoken super highly of the Riptides to me, especially at the higher end tournaments, because they're swingy. And usually we go for reliable when we're looking at things that we want to pair into a list.
Yeah, and I think in the lead up to this, I did a few TTS games, and I actually found with the Riptides, Montcar is better because you do then again some rerolls.
Yeah.
If you're for the wounds, right?
Yep.
You may not be able to. Even if you just roll odds and they hit 4 and they get either 6 or 4 hits, then you wound less. If you at least have a bit more reliability on wounds, like Montcar is actually pretty good for that.
And I mean, most of the time, the Riptides are shooting at things reasonably, that you're winning on 3s and then re-rolling 1s. The Riptides are bounding up the board, but if you're ripping Montcar, hopefully a lot of their stuff is dead.
Yeah.
And the Hammerheads you're not having to play as cagey with. So, sending them up and doing that. I've ripped Montcar 3 times, all 3 games this tournament.
Yeah.
And I found that it was actually necessary for me to win the game. I couldn't actually sit back and just let people come to me with Kaoyun. Because it wasn't the crisis suits that I know that, I'm investing 400, 500 points.
Yeah.
And if they die, that's a quarter of my list gone and I just don't win the game anymore. What have you been running? Montcar or Kaoyun, mostly?
I think the first game against Eldario did Montcar.
Yep.
I think against you I did Kaoyun, and then against the Astra player, I think I did Kaoyun as well. But the lack of terrain density, and not to blame it on the terrain, but the lack of terrain density means that you're not really making it to turn 3 with anything still left on the board anyway.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
So I think going into tomorrow, even if and a lot of the decision comes down to, I want 3 redeploys.
Yes.
So I'm going to go
Yes.
Kayun. Instead, maybe it's start a bit more in strategic reserves, just for that Arcs moment sort of thing, and then. Go Montcar. Even if you go second, go Montcar, and then just get up in their face, get aggressive, use those wound rerolls.
Yep.
Makes the list a little bit more aggressive.
And I think, thinking back on our game, looking at how it was turn 2, I was actually very, very lucky you didn't take Montcar, because how I staged some of my Devilfish, there was a chance you just pop them, Fire Warriors or Parthies get out, and, I might lose a couple, but there weren't a ton of great places for me to send them. And I was kind of looking at it, I'm like, I am really glad that he has had to pull a bunch of stuff off the board.
Yeah.
Because that has meant that these mistakes that I've picked up, they're not as punishable when, because you were rightly looking down and going, okay, there's a hammerhead that shot at me, it whiffed, I'm going to shoot it back, I'm going to shoot at the Riptides and stop them being a threat and all that sort of thing. And it meant that the Devilfish got away with murder when maybe they shouldn't have, if it was that Montcar stage and hide, make me come out, and then just bound out onto the board and just obliterate me. So, yeah. But, mate, honestly, it was a really, really enjoyable game. And
absolutely, likewise.
Yeah. So, make sure everybody talks good about me because, But thank you very much for doing an interview with us, man, and best of luck in the rest of the tournament.
Thanks. Cheers.
So as you can see, really, really lovely dude. And just a wonderful game that really illustrates that even though there are certain sets that stand out more than anything, there is an argument to be made for certain ones, like Sasaya, your battle suits and whatever else counting as being in dense cover a certain distance away. There's not a lot of things that can actually ignore dense. And on top of that, and he used this during our game, he would spend CP just to go, cool, I'm ignoring all cover. So he was shooting across dense at something in light cover, and it just got none of it, which is kind of cool. It obviously didn't translate into a win, but that's not a criticism of Sasaya particularly. That was kind of in a Tau mirror. That's kind of how it goes. There are certain matchups where, and I've done this a lot playing against a very, very good Tau player, Will Wyckoff, where we're running a similar list, and one of us gets to go first roll or gets to go second. In our game, actually it was in another Dice Arcade ITT, funnily enough. Those guys are getting a massive plug out of me for, I didn't mean to, but here we are. They're a great group anyway, so I'm happy to. But in that list, we had a bunch of stuff that we wanted second turn so that we could score at the end of the game. And we would be kind of reacting to our opponent because we weren't a good proactive list. And this one, unfortunately, was the opposite, where he kind of needed to go first in order to make it so that I couldn't just spring out on the board with my pre-game moves and everything else and just choke everything up to the point where he couldn't do anything. And as he said, he had to pull a bunch of stuff off the board with Exemplar of the Kayun, which I believe was the right call because the game would have been worse for him if he didn't have those threats coming in. But it also meant he just didn't have the board presence, which is, I guess, the criticism of Tau as a whole. After the Montcar nerfs, after the Crisis and the indirect nerfs and everything else, which again, needed to happen, not saying that they didn't, but it really highlights that we had to go into a style of game where it was hide, be uninteractive, kill as much as you could, and then go out in the last 3 turns and score 1 billion points. Which isn't really a fun place to be in, especially if you clock out or whatever else. So anyway, Elliot, thank you so much, my dude. Really, really appreciate it. I hope I get to play you again. Maybe not at this event because I'm running a Ghostkeel, but we'll see. And there is a chance at this event that I run into Tau, as we have a number of Tau players that are there, including somebody that I wish would switch off Tau because they're a terrible human being. So there's a chance that we play into a number of Tau players, which is fine. We'll do okay into that. We've played the Tau matchup enough. I don't think I've ever actually lost the Tau mirror, which is kind of nice. But it's never fun playing your own faction, especially when uninteractivity is the name of the game. Now, into the meat of the video, this bad boy. Which, by the way, sent to me by one of my patrons, Taco, which, again, thank you so much. Kind of wild, going back into my point at the start of the video, that I have fans and people who want to send me stuff and whatever else. I may have said it a lot in other videos, but it will never be lost on me just how incredible it is. Being this small and just having a passionate fan base. You guys are incredible, including Scuttle, one of my other patrons, who decided not to use his voucher, but to send me something instead as a thank you for it. Just incredible. Incredible. Anyway, so we are trialing out a new paint scheme. And, you know, we'll see how it pans out. This was actually something that my wife Chelsea was painting for me. We're just trying to get it battle ready so it doesn't have a lot of the lines that we want, and a lot of the, you know, edge highlighting and whatever. But, I mean, she's done an incredible job, honestly. And that kind of goes into, I've got Farsight sitting behind me on the table that we're getting ready and sort of gluing together and doing real properly for the reveal, because Aussie Wargaming were nice enough to send that to us. So, running this in my list, what have I had to do? Well, I'm running because I believe that this is probably the best iteration for this to fit in and really do well in a competitive environment. I'm plugging it into Hayden Waldark's Borkan list from Uprising. Now, we've seen, especially with ATC, and I've actually been kind of thinking about doing a video reviewing some of the tower lists in that, where there are some wild tower lists in that tournament, including the return of Sunshark Bombers, which is okay, cool. It makes me really happy for anybody who watched the video where I said goodbye to Shadow Sun and the Bombers and everything. I like having a mixed arms army. I think it's great having a bunch of things from a bunch of different parts of the book, and not just, you know, I think it's kind of boring where you just got like 15 crisis suits and a bunch of commanders and then you just auto win the game because we were unnerved at that point. So, what am I doing in this list that's different to be able to fit in the Ghostkeel? The commanders, the ethereal, I'm just running the one, they're all the same. I love the way that they played. They all have their own sort of niche, Mortal Wounds with Cold Star, a heavy anchor with the Enforcer with triple cyclics, which just deletes whatever he looks at, and you're not scared to charge him in with the Thermonutronic, which is fantastic. He's got the Bagel Hunter plate and native -1 to all damage, 5 uphill, no pain. The thing is incredible. Troops, absolutely the same. 2 breach squads. Done. Pathfinder squad with 3 rail rifles, making up your 3 Fire Warrior team, which means that scoring aerospace targeting relays becomes very easy. Then we get into a little bit of variance. I'm running my 2 Crude Hound squads. Nothing's changed there. Love my Crude Hounds. They must be in every list I run, or just I'll stop playing Tau. And then we get into the heavy support. Now, obviously, the Ghostkeel fits in the elite slot. I've got him running the double flamers and the early warning override with the wide spectrum scanners, which means that I have a unit which can Auspex scan. Not only Auspex scan, but because I'm Borkan, all of my rangers will be in range to be able to hit people when they're charging or coming down or whatever else, or even just being able to be a little bit further away, but also being able to get my value from a lot of my weapons. Now, I've had people talk about burst cannons and, you know, fusions and whatever else on the Ghostkeel and tracking. I hear you, I do. The reason I take it is because in the environments that I play in, having something which, even in all specs, with a unit that's not getting any rerolls, it's not getting whatever, telling somebody I am going to guaranteed hit you with 2d6 plus 4 shots is alarming for somebody bringing stuff in. You think about demons, which is one of our worst matchups. If they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring in a Bloodletter squad and I can come in within 6 inches of you and charge 3d6, you're like, cool. When you land, 2d6 plus 4 shots. When you charge, 2d6 plus 4 shots. All of my other shots hitting on 5s because I have the early warning override and I'll do it for free. That is an alarming prospect for somebody who would usually want to play around the morale rules and all the little like deep strikey things that they've got. That is an alarming prospect. That makes that unit something which is terrifying. Even though it's AP0 in matches like Demons, they don't care. If we have Kazakhstan units that are coming in to teleport and do their thing, even though Kazakhstan's got nerfed and we are playing the new Data Slate, that is still an alarming prospect. You create functionally it's not even a 24-inch bubble because the width of the base is like 4 inches, so it's a 28-inch bubble of note. Just solid note. You will not come in here because otherwise I'm going to rinse you. which is nice. It's really, really nice. I like that. Now, what do we have to give up for this? We have had to give up a hammerhead entirely, which isn't the best. I honestly would prefer to have that hammerhead in my list, having a railgun shot, even though they can sometimes be inconsistent, but rolling with a 4, re-rolling because hammerhead built in, that's a 75% chance of getting a railgun shot through. And before anybody starts, I know that they fail all the time. I have to tracking, seriously. But there's a lot of consistency in that. And it's something that your opponent doesn't know if you're going to fail or succeed, so it will play around it. So losing a hammerhead isn't the greatest, but with the recent changes to broadsides, I've decided to do a little bit of meta chasing, and that is where actually me and my wife, after I finish this video, we are going to be rapidly painting to get those done. We are going to be running 2 3-man rail sides. Running the like the advanced targeting, whatever, the auto wounding 6s, basically. And then velocity trackers, because there's a bunch of things that have fly on them at the moment. And I don't think that's going to change with the data slate. So having broadsides at the back of the board, functionally a 1-up save if I just have them sitting in like cover, which they very likely will. And if I'm running Mont Car, I can advance them, go a little bit further than the 5 inches would normally have. And that gives me a lot of repositioning power. Now, what is the trade-off from broadsides to riptides? Well, one, first and foremost, I do think there's a place to have both broadsides and riptides in your list. If you would want to change certain things, there is nothing wrong with a 3-man broadside unit running 2 riptides, or 2 broadside units and a riptide and then pulling something else out. Or even just running a 3-man and a riptide somewhere else on there. They have their own unique things that they bring to the board. There is nobody saying that one is just complete, absolute dog water, and the other one is the golden child that needs to be brought in every list. The Riptide obviously brings in its own jump, shoot, jump, which can be very powerful and very obnoxious. It can turn its own 5-up feel no pain on, and it can increase its number of shots. It is faster, it has fly, it can use the stratagem to jump, shoot, jump, if you take, say, the 5-up feel no pain or the extra shots. So there's a lot of utility that you have in it. It's got a 2-up armor and a 4-up invulnerable save, which is great. And it's, well, less wounds than the broadside. Only being at 14 wounds. The downsides of it, it brackets. If you take enough wounds, your Nova Reactor becomes useless because it'll burn out. Well, I mean, that's about it. But lack of consistency. Now the broadsides have core. Let's go over to the broadside side of it. If I'm running a 3-man with rail rifles, that's 6 shots. Same number as the unbuffed accelerator ion cannon. But those 6 shots are a higher strength, higher AP, D3 plus 3 damage for each one that goes through, plus a mortal wound in addition on a successful wound roll. Now, keep that in mind. It is not when, if the opponent saves it or doesn't, you successfully wound and they take a mortal wound, which means our auto wounding 6s become even better, because that is just cool. I rolled a 6 to hit. It's going through. You are making a save. Bam, mortal wounds. Now, you can also, if you're really feeling dirty, use the Borkan strat to tell them that they don't have an invulnerable save on 2 of those shots. Because remember, it's pick a weapon, which one of the broadsides is equipped with, and that one cannot have invulnerable saves. It's not on the unit. Don't do that. So, we look at that. They are functionally on a 1-up armor save. They have 8 wounds apiece, which means that they are functionally a 24 wound unit. That if you have 1 broadside live on 1 wound, it is still shooting just as well as it did before it took any wounds. Whereas 7 wounds off the Riptide means that that thing is bracketed, and it's always just 1-off bracketing. I think it's 1-off bracketing, but you have a chance that you will fail your Nova Reactor roll. So they're slow, they're fixed, but the big thing is my Ethereal, which didn't really have a good target for the Feel No Pain before this, now can put a Feel No Pain onto one of the broadside units that I know I'm going to be exposing. Because I will likely have a slower Enforcer Commander sitting a little bit further back, they will likely be within a 6-inch reroll order. They benefit a little bit more than the Riptides do now, which is why I've decided to play with them. Not to say that they're better, but that I want to experiment and just see kind of where they're fitting and how it feels to have them in there. D3 plus 3 damage, having min 4 damage on that sort of stuff is just really, really nice. But it also means that if you high roll, you're getting through 7 damage a shot. And against things like vehicles or characters or whatever else, that can be better than having to get through 2 of the ion accelerator shots, which means that your damage ceiling is a little bit higher. Will it be better? I don't know. I think I'm coming around to the idea of a Ghostkeel being in the list, not as something that I want to do all the time, but just that I'm looking at the list and I'm not feeling gimped. I don't feel like I'm just going to auto lose as a result of having it in there. And generally speaking, I can pilot most lists and be able to put up some results. But and there are a number of bigger names coming to this this event, including Alex Englezos and Damien Ridgewell, who, like I said, were on the 40k Academy stream with me. I think I'm still going to be relatively competitive, but I think I'm going to have to fight for every inch that I take. And really, I think it's going to be the Broadsides in terms of damage for anything they can see, and it's going to be the Fisher Fury that's going to win me the game with points-wise, because I'll be able to pick up ATRs and just play decisive action, get my Tau hundreds, to quote Hayden Walduck, which I love that one. It's actually caught on a little bit down here from some of the people that watch my videos. God, it sounds so weird to say. Anyway, this is just the preamble for the Ghostkeel list. Obviously couldn't do any of this stuff without my patrons that are on screen now. Thank you guys so much. My Shaswees, my Shassos. It means so much having you guys around and having people that are supporting me and helping me to build something incredible. So that's our video. Let me know in the comments what you think my scoreline is going to be. The tournament is tomorrow in Australia. So yeah, let's see if we can put up some results, and if I can win this, finally take home that bet. So thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.